Welcome to this first episode, English episode of our hunting program called Driepoot. Now, it's a funny name. It's an Afrikaans name because we are three African hunters, Afrikaner hunters, who normally have hunting discussions on YouTube on the channel Driepoot in Afrikaans. But we have decided that we will also have some discussions in English. We are on three places in the world, and Driepoot means three legs. It's a three-legged pot, a traditional African pot. And the one leg is in Athens, Georgia. That's where I'm sitting at the moment. My name is Danie. And then the second leg is Jan van Niekerk, who sits in Perth, Australia. Welcome, Jan.
Thanks, Danie.
Yes, and then the third leg is in South Africa. You will also see on our emblem that the three-legged pot has its three legs in Australia, South Africa, and Georgia in the USA. Third leg is Valentyn van Merwe, sitting in Pretoria, South Africa. Welcome, Valentyn.
Thanks, Danie.
Yes, so I think hunters looking at this program will realize that that English is not our first language. It's not our mother tongue, so we will do our best. We love hunting and we love discussing hunting, but every so often our English will just end. And so we hope that that will not be a problem, but we love hunting. We love talking about hunting, specifically African hunting. And we would like to share some thoughts with you. Please like and subscribe, and then you will get updates on new recordings and so on. That will be very interesting. So just as an introduction, Jan, tell us a little bit about you and your hunting and how you grew up with hunting, please.
Thanks, Danie. I grew up in central South Africa, which is called the Free State or the Orange Free State, which is mostly open savanna, grass country. So there's not that much bush around. So a lot of the hunting that we grew up with is in that area is basically varmint hunting, getting rid of ground squirrels and guinea fowls and francolin that damage crops. And then if you want to hunt antelope, the typical savanna species that we hunted was Blesbok and Springbuck. And grew up hunting Blesbok and Springbuck. If you can call it hunting, a lot of that is done by sitting in areas waiting for the animals to get close enough to shoot at, or following them in vehicles. So it's more, so sometimes more of a culling operation rather than hunting.
Yes.
But I think the important thing is that we never hunted anything that didn't do damage unless we wanted to eat it. So everything that we hunted turned into biltong, which is a South African delicacy that most people across the world probably know about, which is a dried meat that you put salt, pepper, and coriander and a few other bits and pieces on, and you leave it to dry, which is our staple around there. That area.
Yes.
A lot of shooting happened, especially if you grow up in farming country. And even if you were in the cities, you know, we grew up with school cadets where you were taught to shoot 22 rimfire rifles around the 25-meter mark to teach you the basic marksmanship skills that you might require. And that fitted really nicely into the hunting environment as well.
Yes, yeah, and also maybe important to mention that we grew up in a time where South Africa was at a war, and so that's why we had the cadets and we had to be taught how to shoot. So it's a very interesting time that almost, you know, naturally got us into hunting via the shooting range at school. Valentyn, tell us a little bit about your hunting experiences. You have a place to hunt where Jan and I just dreamt about as children. Tell us a little bit about your hunting.
Firstly, I think it goes both ways, Danie. So we here up in the northern parts, we dream about hunting in the Free State area as well, because we're not used to that. So I think it goes both ways. So I grew up in Pretoria. Just to put it in perspective where it is in South Africa, it's just half an hour's drive from Johannesburg, and it's about 3.5 hours west of the Kruger National Park, or 4 hours west of that. So, but it's one of the biggest cities. But just the surrounding areas has a lot of bush fields, so bush with thorn trees, and that's where I grew up. and started hunting from a younger age. And basically, how I learned to hunt and was so we go out to hunt, we bring back whatever we hunted, and we process it ourselves. So I think so we make all our own biltong, as Jan said, and yeah, we basically process the whole animal and
Yes.
then do it at home, and then yeah, put it in the fridge to enjoy.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure we'll have a program on the processing of our meat and specifically the make of biltong. I know the American friends that I've made that have come to know biltong, they love it, and it's a whole new way of utilizing the meat of something like a white-tailed deer here in America. Jan, the Australians, do they like biltong?
They're getting used to it, yes. There's even shops in Perth that sells biltong, so they make biltong out of beef.
Okay.
I don't know what's happened there.
Yeah.
There we go,
Yes.
sorry.
No problem.
So they make biltong out of beef, and the Australian people getting used to it very quickly. Biltong is not something that's really difficult to learn to eat.
Yes.
But once you tasted it, I think it sells itself.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah, just no offense, Danie, but it's way better than the jerky in the US. Yeah.
I think so too. Definitely easier to make, and so that's also attractive to some of my hunting friends here in America. So I also grew up in the Free State where we hunted plains game, Springbok mainly. So as Jan said, that's not really hunting; it's mainly shooting, but for the purposes of having the meat to eat. So me and my brother grew up on a little farm, and every year when the cold came in, it's an exciting time. Some of the family from the city came around and came and hunted with us Springbok. So that's where, and now and again, we had the privilege to go to the bushveld to hunt Impala. They were Valentyn, where you are normal, it's just normal for you to hunt there. So Impala and Kudu in the bushveld, oh, that was like a special treat to us.
Yeah, the main difference is the walking and stalking around the bush country.
Yes.
And you learn very quickly how sharp the different antelopes senses are, compared to a human. You need to be very careful which way the wind blows. Yes. And you need to do your approaches correctly and not make any noise. Otherwise, they will notice you and disappear before you get time to fire a shot. And I think it's around Australia, there's a lot of feral animals hunted, like goats that's gone wild. Okay. And when I arrived here, I thought there was maybe something similar to Impala, but they're still not halfway as aware as Impala. So it's reasonably easy to hunt them. If you can find the herd, you would definitely manage to take some meat home. Okay.
Yes, I remember, and this is also something, the American hunters that, sit in stands normally. I can just know that your knowledge of walking and stalking. Oh man, I tell you, the first time I was in the bushveld, I think I walked 30 kilometers, which is, what would that be? 14 miles on a weekend, and not shooting anything because I did not realize the importance of wind, for example. I mean, I was just basically bumping deer away that smelt and heard me long before I could see or shoot them. So those are the kinds of skills we'll discuss still in detail that the African hunter needs. Valentyn, that almost comes naturally to you guys that grew up in bushveld hunting.
Yeah, it is a unique way of hunting because you walk and stalk basically, and as both of you said, for instance, Impala, because they are in big herds, in groups, there's a lot of eyes that and a lot of noses that can smell quite good and can see quite well as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, we'll discuss what's important things to look out for when hunting in the bushfield, and I think what's a good discussion later on maybe as well is in the plains game what's important there in South Africa as well.
Yes, yeah. No, it's important, as you said. If you have 30 Impala there in the bush, if one sees you, that's a goner. He lets the others know, and you're toast after that. So when that first one sees you, and it just gives that sound, your hunt is over for a while. Valentyn, tell me a little bit though. You spoke about the older guy who taught you to hunt, and he was a smoker, and he had the patience, and he taught you the patience. You know, when you frighten deer or when you've shot. Just chat a little bit about his habits.
Yeah, so basically, yeah, so as you said, he was a smoker, and I learned almost everything from him, and yeah, and a couple of guys as well. But he, when you shoot an animal, there's a lot of adrenaline pumping, and so he was always, especially in the bushfield, because you could lose it quite quick.
Yes.
It's just a couple of trees, and then you don't actually know where you were when you shot the animal. So, and to go back to that same position is an important thing to be able to do as well. But so you would lit up a cigarette and just have a nice smoke and relax for 10 to 15 minutes to be able just to give the antelope that you shot just a relaxed way of just going about it, and then you can slowly start seeing where you can pick up the animal, because at the moment if you scare the thing when it's shot, then especially when it's a bad shot, then you can continue for a couple of days sometimes. So it's important.
Yeah, that's a good habit. As we say in South Africa, that if you've wounded the animal, it's going to show you the farm. You know, it's going to take you on a walk to the on the farm. Versus if that guy takes a smoke, the deer, the Impala lies down or so, and you have a better chance of getting him again. While we're at Impala, I think it's maybe important to tell international listeners to the program just a little bit about the spiral horn animals. So we have 4 unique spiral horned antelope in South Africa, southern Africa mainly, and they are called Eland, Kudu, and then the Bushbuck and the Nyala. Now those all have these beautiful spiral horns, and I think we all, Jan, your favorite of those spiral horns to hunt and maybe to eat, which one would it be?
Danie, I really love hunting kudu. They really beautiful and the most graceful animal that you might ever come across.
Yes.
Even if they just walk, it looks like, they're so graceful that it astonishes you sometimes. Sometimes you forget that you're hunting them and you don't shoot.
Yeah.
I also love bushbuck. They've got a lyre-shaped horn similar to the Nyala, but they live mainly in dense wooded areas, and they are not easy to hunt. The female of the bushbuck doesn't have horns, and when they travel, what usually happens, especially in the bush areas, is the male of the herd would probably allow the whole herd to move in front of them. So if you're hunting and you want to shoot a decent male animal, you need to have the patience to notice the female animals and not get overexcited until you can find the ram or the bull in the herd. And sometimes you will get what they call in Afrikaans bokkoers.
Yeah.
So you'll start, the adrenaline will start pumping and you won't be able to hold the rifle stable.
Yeah.
So it's all a game of patience, especially in the wooded areas.
Yeah. Deer fever, I would, it's almost like a direct translation of bokkoers. Deer fever, for sure. Jan, you once had an experience, about the keen hearing abilities of a kudu. Could you talk a little bit towards that?
Yeah, Danie, as you're aware, if a kudu look at you, it looks like it's got a set of radar dishes on each side of the head.
Yes.
So their hearing is very, very acute, and they can hear you very far away. I've once noticed a herd of females, and I couldn't find the bull in the herd, but they were probably like 150, 200 meters away, and I just scratched my foot on the gravel, and they immediately picked up on that.
Yes.
So with that acute sense of hearing, it's easy to scare them away if you don't move slowly and take good care. So I had a friend who hunted kudu for a long time, and he was very experienced. So I once hunted with him, and we were trying to find kudu. So he was teaching me the ropes that he knew, that I could add to my own set of skills. And we walked for a long time and went through a fence. And when we got to the other side of the fence, we stood still, and he said he think we're going to get the kudus because we're moving slow enough. And it's just a matter of time. And I think it was less than 5 minutes after that, we noticed some kudu moving, and we were trying to hunt something just for meat. So we didn't care about trophies.
Yes.
And there was a young bull in that herd that we tried to take. And there was an anthill about 5 or 10 paces in front of me. So I slowly moved up the anthill and lay down on it, but I was too low. I couldn't see the kudu. So I had to sort of crawl up against the anthill and trying to keep the rifle still. But the buck fever took me there, and I just couldn't keep the rifle still. And I had a lot of try and retries until I managed to hold the trigger down, enough that when I squeezed the trigger, I could only see the head of the kudu. The shot broke, and I fortunately hit it in front of the head. And when we got to the kudu, my mate said, "Well, he's astonished that the kudus didn't hear me. He could hear me breathing, and he was very sure that they're going to hear me."
Oh, okay.
Because of the buck fever.
Yeah. No, that's an issue. If the buck fever, if it takes you, there's, you just cannot do anything about it, So just I researched the sizes just for specifically the American hunters. So compared to some of the international, some of the American deer, so the Eland of the spiraled horn is the biggest of all these antelopes. It's also the biggest antelope in the world. And they weigh, so in size, it is the biggest, our biggest, but also the biggest compared to American antelope. It weighs 800 to 2,200 pounds. And then the next one is the kudu that goes 420 to 600 pounds. Then it's the nyala, beautiful antelope. It's 120 to 300 pounds. And then the bushbuck is the little one, like Jan said, next in dense areas and often next to rivers and so on, 80 to 170 pounds. So just to put these spiraled horned antelope in perspective, it'll be Eland, the biggest, then it's a moose, then it's an elk, then comes the kudu, then it's the caribou, then the mule deer, and then nyala are basically almost the same size. And our whitetail deer, you can see behind me here, I've got an 8-pointer whitetail that we shot here in Georgia. And then the bushbuck is the smallest. So that is basically the rank order of the sizes of these antelope. Look, so these elands, Valentyn, they're big and so on, but they're agile. I mean, they also jump fences almost like a kudu, don't they?
Yeah, you can't believe how agile they are. And they'll jump I'm not sure about the feet, but it's a 3-meter fence. They'll jump it over like nothing. So you can't believe that big animal can move like that. As well as a kudu, how fast they can go, but also how gracious they can be and how well camouflaged both of them actually are.
Yes.
They're really, especially the bulls, are really difficult to hunt sometimes. Sometimes you're lucky, but most of the times it's quite a hunt that you'll remember.
It's a challenge. Jan, if you see these big, beautiful bulls, they are so big and beautiful because they were hiding for so long. I mean, they're not just big and beautiful for nothing. Is that right?
Yeah, they didn't get that way by being stupid. That's for sure. And it's just amazing. You can't describe what it looks like if something the weight of an eland clears a 10-foot fence in one bound as if it wasn't really trying. It's just incredible how graceful and how strong these animals are. They're really admirable. You know, sometimes you forget to hunt because they're such beautiful animals.
Yes.
What we probably should mention is that we're talking about, you mentioned that it's South and Southern Africa, but there are other species similar to those that lives up near the equator in Congo, for instance, such as the Livingston eland. This is another species
Beautiful.
within the eland that's even bigger than the Cape eland that we know around South Africa.
Yes.
And there's also species like the Sitatunga and the bongo, and you know, they are also spiral horned animals up north that we didn't mention. So we're just focusing on the southern part of Africa at the moment.
Yes. Excellent. Also, during our program Driepoot, we discuss some weapons, and we also, South Africans, Afrikaners specifically, are avid reloaders. So we will be discussing those things, debating calibers. I'm sure the rest of the world, I know in America, you know, the debates are always there about calibers and so on. So Jan, who is a specialist, Jan also owns a gun shop in Perth called Shooter Shed. Jan, would you just take us a little bit through some, like a checklist of you're going to hunt, you know, buy your first weapon, or you want to compare two rifles. Before, in the next episodes, we're going to tackle the difficult issue of comparing specific calibers. But in general, what is the checklist when you want to buy a gun?
Yeah, Danie, I think the most important thing is, you know, a rifle is like a tool, or the shotgun or a handgun, it's like a tool. So the first thing is, what do you want to do with this? And the second thing you need to consider is how big is the quarry you're pursuing, to make sure that you've got enough energy to bring down whatever you're shooting at with the first shot, you know, reliably every time.
Yes.
There's also things that you need to consider, such as the caliber is important, but things like what type of action. And I think, you know, the American hunter, the general American hunter, tend to use, especially in the bush areas, they use lever guns very regularly, which we don't see that much around South Africa, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
In Australia, the guys love lever guns, especially if you're left-handed. You know, you don't need, there's no left and right-handed on a lever gun. Yeah. So that sort out the left-hand and right-hand issue. But they love to use them in brush country where you need to shoot very quickly and do a lot of follow-up shots, where bolt gun might be a little bit slower. So if you're considering shooting longer distances more accurately, there's probably better action types that you can use, such as the bolt guns. And then from an American perspective, I would say, you know, there's a lot more access to pump action and semi-auto firearms, which you don't have issues in licensing in the USA, where they're banned around here. We really can't do even semi-automatic shotguns. You need to be a primary producer in Australia to be able to license a semi-auto shotgun. Never mind something like a
AR-15
pump action or whatever. Yeah, AR-15s are non-existent here, and we can just look at it and drool. Unfortunately, it would have been nice to have access to those and play with them. And I think, you know, the ammunition consumption would have been a lot higher around here if we had access or licensing possibilities for firearms like those.
Yes.
So I think the main thing is, you know, in summary, what is the quarry? You know, what's the size of it? So you need to pick the correct caliber, and then what type of action do you require for the type of shooting that you do? And we didn't even talk about shotguns and handguns. You know, they tend to widen the market even more, and each of them have different categories that you can pick and consider if you need to make a selection. Most of the time, you know, if you go to a gun shop, I think the guys are reasonably equipped to ask you the correct questions to get you to the point where you select what is suitable for your application.
Okay. Yeah.
I think,
sorry. Yes, Valentyn, add on.
Yeah, what I can add specifically, and I'm not sure if it's just a South African thing, but I think specifically as well is the type of caliber is important as well. You must look at the ammunition that's available within your country as well. So you can walk in South Africa, almost all gun shops will have .308 ammunition, but when you get to a 416 or whatever, then it's going to be more scarce. So that's also something to consider.
Yes, for sure. We will, in the next episode, tackle the difficult issue of 308 versus 3006. So you're on the lookout for that. Jan will take us through the difficult discussion on that. It's almost like in America, I guess, Ford versus Chevrolet, or in South Africa, Toyota versus Isuzu pickups or something like that. We will gracefully dance around those issues in the next episode. Valentyn also reloading, very keen reloader with his own 10,000 hours of reloading behind his back. Like Malcolm Gladwell said, he's a specialist at it. Give us a little bit of just a quick insight into reloading and the situation in South Africa.
Thanks, Donnie. Also, a couple of things. I think firsthand, there's a lot of people that does reload in South Africa. There's a bunch of reasons for that. One being the availability of what you can get, the availability of ammunition, because we are mostly we rely on imports for all of the ammunition basically. And if you plan well enough and you reload, then you'll almost sure that you'll have enough ammunition throughout hunting seasons. It takes a bit of planning, but I think the most important part is that there's especially these days, there's a big culture that about shooting as accurate and as well as possible, and I think that gives you the freedom with reloading, is that you can do more reliable, more accurate loads for your specific weapon. I think that's why so many of us started with it, and it has developed into a big thing within South Africa. We had our ups and downs as well. We have a local producer of a Sonchem, it's called, that does what do you call it? Yeah, just say again.
Powder or propellant?
Yeah, the propellant. So, and there was a something explosion at one of the outlets. So there was a time where we had a bit of difficulty with the local propellants, but these days, luckily, we have a bunch of propellants available in South Africa. Basically, almost all of the brands that's available in Europe and in the US as well. So these days, we have a lot of options available, and that makes things more interesting and nice to do as well.
Good. You all had to then, develop new loads, I guess, with the new propellants.
Yeah, for sure. So most of us have both the South African loads and some of the other loads that's imported. So, but I think that was a good thing. It's it's more available now, so it gives you options.
Yeah, definitely the free market in working. Exactly. So, we're in America here. The hunting season's over. There's not much to look forward to, but in South Africa, everybody's getting ready. So it's been a wonderful first program. And I know, Valentyn, you've got some first hunts booked. We would look forward to maybe even chatting to you in the hunting field at some stage with one of the episodes. Yes. So thank you for that. Jan, also there on a farm 5 hours south of Perth in your pickup. Next time we'll be in the shooter's shed, please, so we can see your shop.
Hopefully.
So,
hopefully.
Yeah, that will be wonderful. Looking forward to the next episodes, 308 versus 3006 for the next one. Valentyn, you will take us through some technical issues regarding reloading, and we will discuss mainly African hunting. It was a pleasure to have this first episode. Jan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Have a great Easter.
Yes, Valentyn, thank you for a first great episode.
Thanks. We'll speak soon.